Hello. The recording you're about to listen to was recorded in Doylestown at the 2023 Doylestown Spiritual Banquet Conference hosted by the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, which meets at St. Paul's Lutheran Church every Saturday night, 8 p.m. food and fellowship, 8:30 speaker. Please look for us on YouTube at the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown and our Facebook page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Anyway, look forward to seeing you. Hope you enjoy these recordings. They were very powerful and lives were changed there. Please take advantage of them and share them with whoever you think could benefit from their talks. Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. A couple quick announcements. Today's workshop will be on YouTube. It'll be posted on there in the next coming week. Powerful talks, powerful speakers. We owe a lot to the people that came out and made that possible. All the home group members that have been active, doing all kind of work behind the scenes. The amount of logistics is incredible. And when we're done here, we got to break this whole place down. So if you're in AA and you wonder where can I be of service, you're in the right place. We got a lot of it. So a lot of people think it's just about listening. Sometimes we've got to put it into the action. The seventh traditional go around, there was a great expense with this, and of course it falls on the responsibility of our group. And we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of members that contributed a lot over the years and made this thing really possible. And it's been like the first time since COVID, like over 4 years since we did this. So anyway, with that, what else I got to mention? Oh yeah, Nick is in charge of Venmo. If you want to Venmo him 10, 20 grand, put your hand up. If you got unfinished amends, send the money to Nick and we'll put it to good work. Anyway, with that, we've got the world's best looking chairperson. Welcome, Brian.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30, so feel free to come early and join us. Enjoy the coffee and refreshments we put out. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others can benefit from the message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. So if there's anyone that's new or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first name basis so that we can welcome you. Yeah. Adam, awesome. Yeah.
I'm John, grateful recovering alcoholic.
Welcome.
I'm Money Flora, I'm an alcoholic from Alexandria Township.
All right.
Hi, I'm Lourdes, alcoholic from
Welcome. Yeah.
Joe, an alcoholic from Lansdale. Welcome. I'm Shane, I'm an alcoholic from Philly.
Shane, welcome.
I'm David, recovered alcoholic from Bloomsbury, New Jersey.
David. Welcome, David. Anybody else? We got everybody? Cool. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. So if you are new, you're just coming around, grab one of those people after the meeting. Like Ron said, there'll be a bunch of us hanging out after the meeting, breaking this whole thing down. Feel free to get with us. We'd love to talk with you, get you into the solution, get some numbers, recommend some meetings. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Nobody has anything? Okay. A couple of announcements for this group. This group does have a sister group, which is a big book study meeting. It meets right up the street here. Thursdays at 7:30 at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street in Doylestown. And the coffee for that meeting is on at 6:15. So again, feel free to show up early and join us. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in the jar, usually on the back table there, marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. We post our speakers from this group. We also post speakers from a meeting we have on Monday in the room right next to here, which is a STEP speaker and discussion meeting. If you're interested in that, we post speakers from that on there. That meeting's also followed by an Al-Anon meeting, and there's also a meeting 6 days in the week, on the other side of this wall here, 6 o'clock a.m. This group also has a Facebook page, so you can follow our Facebook page. It's a good resource to have. We post our events, happenings, workshops we have like this, anniversary celebrations. Other groups will post happenings they have going on, so it's a good resource to have. Stay tied in with happenings in AA throughout the area. And with that, I believe Nick is going to come up here. He's going to read our Just for Today prayer.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic. Amen. Welcome home. The Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I'll be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And now with that, I have Kara come up and read the preamble.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Hello. The AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor imposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Now I'd like to invite Anthony to come up and read our 12 steps of recovery. Let's give Anthony a warm welcome.
Welcome home. I'm Anthony, and I'm an alcoholic. And these are the 12 steps of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for His knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now I'm going to turn it back to Brian. Thanks.
Okay, we do have a 7 tradition. Every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. Again, there's no dues or fees for any membership, but we do have expenses. We appreciate your contributions to help cover the costs of food, rent, big books, workshops we put on like this, so your contributions are appreciated. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. We have a good relationship with the church. We're very lucky to be able to use this beautiful facility to hold events like we had today and in our meeting on a weekly basis. And really all they ask is that we keep the premise clean, so just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce a very good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on loan to us from the Alcoholics and God Group of Boca Raton, Florida. Please help me welcome Peter M.
All right, thank you. My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. Grateful to be alive and sober, part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank you, Ron, again for a great day, the group for setting up. And we had a wonderful workshop here. I know everyone who wasn't here today, I took names. And, we had a good time today, and you guys rock. We see your Saturday picture on Facebook. So I got to be a part of that for the first time. It's pretty cool, so thank you. June 23rd, 1988 is when a loving God separated me from alcohol. I'm very grateful for this gift of sobriety. Very grateful, as I said, from a million of these podiums to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And a member of good standing is I try to uphold and support the traditions as well as the tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous. And be a part of this and not around this, as God sees fit. I have a sponsor, Bob Azan from St. Paul, Minnesota. I do have a home group. It's Alcoholics and God in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Mary and I, it's our favorite group down there. If you're in town in Fort Lauderdale, look us up. It's a cool meeting. It's set up something like this. It looks like a conference every Thursday night, and a bunch of cool trusted servants who get there like 5 o'clock to set up for a 7:15 meeting, and it's a diner afterwards. We go to the diner, which has the worst food, the worst coffee, the worst looking place. And when it's all over, we say, let's do it again next week. I'll tell you, as the older I'm getting, and the longer I'm sober, things get revealed to us as we continue to awaken on this path. As long as I'm not getting away from step one, I talked about this earlier today, we can little by slowly start to drift and get away from step one. And we'll know that by our actions. We kind of check in with the sponsor if we have one. Hang around meetings, we're not really in the middle of it. Not really sponsoring anyone, accountable to no one. My prayer life has fallen off the cliff, and I've gotten away from step one. I'm headed for serious trouble if I do that. And alcoholism won't say, hey, you're headed for trouble. It'll just endorse that type of stuff. But thank the good Lord, staying close to the center here and having God as my number one priority, conscious contact with Him, things get revealed to us. And what I've shared this many times, what has been revealed to me, it's a number of years now, is a few things. And one is about this gift of sobriety. It's easy when you're around here while I take it for granted. I don't like that meeting, I'll go to that meeting. I don't like that speaker, I'll go there. I'll just stay home. I'll get to a meeting tomorrow. I'll write inventory later. I'll pray tomorrow. I prayed last week, I have to pray today. And these little things start to get in the way. And forgetting how fragile sobriety is. And I'll go out on a limb here and say, no matter how spiritually fit any of us might think we are, it's still really fragile. I have a disease that centers in the mind, and it's always looking to work. It's always looking to push me out of this. And if I'm not really in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous and surrendering to God daily, little by slowly I will start to drift, and then we get drunk. And we can't even see drunk coming around the corner. It just shows up, and then we're drunk. And we all sit around and go, oh my God, I can't believe Joe or Mary got drunk. How that happened? And then we do some investigation and find out the things they weren't doing. The other thing, I have found out the importance of relationships. And along with that, how fragile this thing life is. When I was coming around here, I got sober at 28 years old, and 30, I'm like Rocky V at that age. I'm bulletproof. Nothing can hold me. You're working out, you're going to work, you're dating, you're going to meetings, just nonstop. And you think you're invincible and life will last forever. And then fast forward, and I'm going to be 65 in July. It's interesting what happens. I used to wake up in the morning and kind of, run over to the coffee pot. Now I get out of bed, and parts of my body makes different noises. And I kind of mosey very slowly over to the coffee pot. The importance of relationships, starting with my relationship with God and relationships with others. Life is so fragile, man. I mean, there's no guarantee that I or any of us are going to be here tomorrow or an hour from now. But we take it for granted like I do. I'll see Joe next week. I'll make it up to him. I'll make that amends next month. And then one of us are not here. And the last thing I ever want to do is put my head on the pillow and say, I should have made that call. I should have told that person how important they are to me. And I made it my business, thank you God for that, to let folks who are close to me know how much I appreciate them. Because life is so fragile. It's really important as a person who's claiming to be on the spiritual path is I need to write inventory if someone's disturbing me. I need to be talking about that as well. And I need to take it to prayer. And I have one guy right now I've been writing a lot of inventory on because there's some tension when I'm around this person. I can't afford to do that. I need to be rid of that stuff. Because I'm really dependent on getting free and have a clear path to God. When I start to get static, it's not good for me. It's plaque on the soul. And little by slowly, I start to get blocked from God. But I don't think I'm blocked from God. I think I'm just fine. I'm starting to feel the effects of it, but I don't know what it is. And so it's really important that I clean that stuff up, make amends, and let people know I love them. Let people know they're important to me. Tell people thank you for a great job and not expect anyone to reciprocate. And that has been really important to me lately. It's a few years now. You know what happens too? Relationships do improve when you live like that. And the ego's scared to death to do that, doesn't want you to do that. But we lead with the soul, not with the mind anymore. And when I'm leading with the soul and not leading with fear, when I'm leading with the soul and not living in the wreckage of the future, I'm traveling light and relationships improve. We're more genuine, we're more authentic, we're more true. And people can sense that kind of thing. That's living on God's terms, not life on life's terms. So the longer I'm sober, little things get revealed to me, never losing sight of the fact that I'm an alcoholic, and if I pick up a drink, I'm a dead man. And staying close to step one. In fact, the further along I go in the steps, it shouldn't take me further away from step one. It should drive me deeper into step one on how powerless I am with everything and how much I need a God in my life. The other thing that I woke up to a number of years ago was my brokenness and my flawed character. The human condition is broken and flawed. When I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought I had to be, I'm in AA now, I'm doing the steps, I have to walk on water, I don't have fear anymore, I'll never get a resentment, I'll never disagree with anyone, everything's like just wonderful. Now Bill refers to AA as a utopia, but not the individual, because this individual is not always like looking like utopia. Especially with the narratives in the head. And I came to terms with the aha moment, the great liberation, is that I am broken and flawed. That's how God designed it. It's a greater need for God, and with great freedom in that, and understanding I'm the car when it dries away, leaves an oil spot on the ground. That's me. And it's really okay. I don't need to be perfect because I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a very humbling, it's a force feeding of humility, coming to terms with how broken and flawed we are up until my last breath. But it's how God designed it. And it's a greater need for God. So these things, sometimes we get free, but we need to kind of grind it out once in a while. And then I run out of road, I hit the wall and say, okay, what's wrong with me? Instead of looking out at life from the problem as the filter, I start to look in at the problem, which is me. And it's always me. Perceptions of situations usually cause me pain and suffering, not always the reality of it. And there's something that says all wrongdoing arises from the mind. If the mind is transformed, what wrongdoing can exist? The way the mind is transformed is through an awakening of the spirit. And for me, and I speak for myself, just going to a meeting is not going to do that. It's a Band-Aid on an open wound. I need to be part of this fellowship. I love being a part of this fellowship. The noise before the meeting is basically music, if you think about it. The noise after the meeting is music, if you think about it. And all the camaraderie and the handshakes and all that stuff. A new guy walking in, a woman walking in says, welcome, come on home, welcome home. And his handshakes and hugs and have a cup of coffee. That's a Band-Aid on an open wound, but then we leave. And there's 23 more hours we need to work with. And I need some spiritual muscles. What I get in Alcoholics Anonymous is soul food. That's what I get here. I get food for the soul. Rather than becoming anemic in Alcoholics Anonymous and the soul muscles get flabby and weak, I need God in order to go out there and do life. Because I don't live in Alcoholics Anonymous. AA for me is not a bridge back to life. That's somebody else's story. I don't want a bridge back to my old life. God has built me a bridge to this life. But I need to be out there working and doing things. And how do you do that without spiritual muscles? So what the 12 steps in this big book does is feed my soul. For the longest time, I would look through the world from the eyes of the mind and hear from the ears of the mind and operate out of the mind. I'd operate out of that place. When I'm doing that, I'm in self-reliance, and the external world owns me at that point. My day hinges on what people say, what people do, what they think about me, and I become purely focused and immersed in what people think of me, what they're saying about me, how do I present to other people, rather than my focus upon God. I shared this earlier that for the longest time I did what my sponsor did, and that was my number one priority was sobriety. I would say it. Number one priority is sobriety. And I got to tell you, the truth is true until we discover a new truth. Sobriety is a priority, but my number one priority is having conscious contact with God. Because when I'm doing that, the mind goes quiet. I have alcoholism, not wasn't. I have a mind that will take me back to that which is killing me. I have a mind that will pay any price tomorrow to seek comfort tonight. And it's relentless. Because I go to meetings, I'm not bulletproof from the mind, but God could and would if he was sought. And that's my walk in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it has opened me up to a lot of other influences, religious influences, authors, and things like that outside of AA. We don't own spirituality. Although sometimes I think we do, but we don't. Our book says, be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they offer. God has put me on that path. I'm very grateful for it. When I get, my thought life can create my current reality in 5 minutes if I'm not careful. And then I start to listen to the narratives in the head. You know those voices in the head? We start listening to them, and I pay real close attention to them, and I forfeit all the invitations God's sending to me. I can't hear them. Those voices in the head. You wake up in the morning and your eyes just open and you're thinking of someone, and you're in an argument in 5 minutes, your feet haven't hit the ground. You're driving in your car alone and you're arguing with people. Anyone drive to this meeting alone, by the way? Anyone drive to this meeting alone? 1, 2, a couple? Okay, we've got a few more. Now we're getting honest, okay? And if you think about the ride over here alone, you probably weren't alone in the car. Because if we replay the drive over, think about how many people were talking to you in the head at the same time. How many conversations were going on. How many arguments and how many love affairs and how many million things were going on in the head at the same time. How many of us are thinking about work Monday? We got a new job. I don't like my job. It's Saturday night. I'm worried about Monday. I'm leading with fear. I'm leading with paranoia. Mine looks like this. When I get to Florida, I'm from the Northeast. I'm from up this way. When I get to Florida, I get there. It was January. When I get to Florida, I left New Jersey. It was snowing out, and I get on a plane 2.5 hours later. It's 85 degrees and sunny, so it's pretty cool. And I'm sitting on the couch one day, and I'm looking out my window, and the palm trees are beautiful. The beach is down the block. The palm trees are good. The beach is good. The weather's good. The health is good. The car is good. The relationship good. Everything's good. Everything's good. The money's good. This is really good. And then my mind says, yeah, but remember that time. Or how old are you now? You got a lot more road behind you than in front of you. And by noontime, I got to be a millionaire, go snorkeling, hiking, camping, and fishing by noon. I can do everything by noon. And I go from bliss to bleak in 5 minutes, and I go from happy to depressed. This is what the mind does if I let it. I guess where God's moving me with this is, we talk about alcohol. I always thought that was the problem, and it really is. It's a symptom of a greater problem. When God sobered me up in June of '88, the very first person I ran into was me. And it wasn't a good day. running into me in all my isms. And how do I get out from this? I'm sober and I'm not okay. I'm sober, I'm going to meetings, I'm making a few meetings a day, and I'm not okay. Wherever I go, there I am, and I put my head on the pillow at night, and the 100,000 voices, the chatter of 1,000 voices are going. And I'm tossing and turning. And I'm walking to a meeting, driving to a meeting, they're still on me. And then I get into the meeting, they say, how you doing? I tell you, I'm fine, I'm wonderful, I'm oming. And I turn into Moses when I get to the meeting, and I'm Rambo out there again. So there was a problem. And we can bottom out in Alcoholics Anonymous without picking up a drink. I can suffer from a full-blown alcoholism without ever drinking. In fact, one day God will call me home, and I rather pass from here with alcoholism than from alcoholism. And if I'm not careful, I'll die from alcoholism because I'm an alcoholic and what I do is drink. The freedom I seek nowadays is no longer for me, that would be selfish, but rather from me. The further I get away from me, the freer I am, the lighter I travel. But this thing called alcoholism gets a life by devouring mine, that's what it does. And it takes people in its path. So I have a responsibility here to get busy, and desperation will bring me to that. I come in here knowing I'm alcoholic and I'm desperate for a solution. God gives me a gift of desperation, and I start to wake up and I pass it on in step 12, and that's what keeps us going, little by slowly. Tell you in a general way what it was like, what happened, and how I'm trying to be today. I grew up in Brooklyn, and an area of Brooklyn that was pretty cool growing up. It was called Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. And if anyone's ever seen that movie with John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever, I mean, I grew up right there. The hairdo gives a giveaway. And growing up, we thought The Godfather was an educational movie. It was that kind of neighborhood. But I grew up. Mom and Dad did the best they could, but they had their problems. As a young kid, I saw something, I didn't know what it was. I just knew something was different. My family in my house, from the outside, it was the nicest house on the block. And my mom would dress me and my brothers really proper to go to school. We looked like three clean-cut little brothers walking to school together. From outward appearance, it looked great. My dad always had the new Cadillac outside, nice and shiny. From outward appearance, it looked wonderful. But inside my house, it was vastly different than when I visit my friends at their house. It just felt different. You can feel it. I didn't know what it was as a little kid. And when they would have, talent night at school or the PTA meetings, my mom couldn't make it because she was usually drunk. And my dad would be out gambling a lot. And so there was this thing, as a kid, you can feel you're kind of walking on very thin ice. It's shaky ground. And with an alcoholic parent or just an alcoholic loved one in the same house, everyone else loses their identity and their voice. You don't have a voice. And any accomplishments that you do get, it's kind of way to go, but we got to get back to the drunk. That's our number one priority. And you grow up this way. It doesn't make me an alcoholic, but you kind of lose who you are. There's no identity. There's no goal. There's no path in front of us. And at 14 years old, my mom, after visiting a bunch of psych wards, now we call them treatment centers, but anyway, bunch of psych wards and numerous attempts at suicide. In January 74, she finally committed, she succeeded in committing suicide. And I was left with a guy who's cunning, baffling, and powerful. I called him Dad. He was larger than life to me growing up. I mean, he could have been 18 feet tall in my mind's eye. He had a reputation out on the street. He wasn't an office guy. I call him a street guy. And his reputation was impeccable. He was met with great respect, and he was very intimidating to be around. He had these big blue eyes that would melt steel, and he would just stare at you. He never blinked. I blinked all the time. And it was tough growing up with him. I was a little musician growing up, and I loved being around hippies. I remember Woodstock in 1969. I wanted long hair and bell bottoms and hippie beads. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be like Keith Richards. I wanted to be I wanted to be a hippie. And my dad was certainly picked up the wrong baby at the hospital. It was a mistake here. My dad wanted a little Robert De Niro running around the house. You talking to me? I mean, that's how it went. And it wasn't that way. It was more cut from my mom's cloth, who would, I guess, call her a hippie back then. She was into music and very artsy. I wasn't cut from the same cloth my dad was, that alpha male. Pardon me. So when she died, I'm stuck with this guy. Also, I was terrified of him. I mean, my dad would walk in the room. I just feel myself vibrating. He was always right. He always had the power. He always had the money. He always looked good, and I'm just not that guy. Hanging out on the street corner, that's what we did back in Brooklyn. You hung out on street corners or schoolyards. There were no woods or things like that where we grew up. It was the urban jungle, if you will. And guys used to drink Colt 45 beer. The older guys, that's what they used to do, drink Colt. In the summertime, when school was out, there'd be 30, 40 guys hanging out with girls drinking Colt 45 beer. It was the coolest time. We had a lot of problems in our country in the 60s and 70s. Not like we do now, but we had our problems, serious ones. But there was something that was really cool, almost unique. With all our differences, we were trying to get in the same direction together, and it was called music. I mean, we'd stand on a street corner, and you'd have, rock on one station, listen to the Doors or the Beatles or whoever it might be, and flip down a dial and listen to the Four Tops and Aretha Franklin. You can't get better than that. And the music was a vibe. It was happening. Woodstock was happening. It was a cool time, and the guys were drinking Colt 45 beer. And I wanted what they had. I liked the effect being produced in them by drinking beer. How do you get there? They seem to be traveling light. I'm just off my mom's suicide a few months. I'm full of embarrassment and shame. I'm the only kid on the planet whose mom killed herself. I felt that way, like a unicorn. I got this guy I called Dad. I don't want to go home and even look at this guy because it's never good. We were bumping heads all the time. And when I was a little boy, I was being touched inappropriately for a couple of years. Because I had all this stuff, And it wasn't maybe like nowadays we're a little bit more liberal. We talk. There's self-help places. There are therapists. People know about therapists. We have these different type of guidance counselors in school and things like that. It was keep quiet and keep moving. Don't tell anyone about anything. Just show up well. Present well. And it's like Jimmy was talking about today. How long can you hold your breath before you just blow up? And I did when I picked up a drink. I remember 14 years old grabbing a quart of beer. I never drank before, ever. And I start to drink Colt 45 beer, and halfway through a quart, I'm feeling something I never experienced before. I can breathe. There's a sense of ease and comfort that came by taking just a few drinks I saw others taking with impunity. Half a quart of beer, I'm feeling really good about me. I'm feeling really good about my friends. I find myself being able to talk to the girls on the corner, which was an impossibility sober. I wanted to. I didn't have it in me, and suddenly I became like Joe Romeo. I'm talking to the girls, making a complete idiot out of myself. And in my mind, I'm like Elvis Presley now. And by the time I finished the quart of beer, I'm like Al Pacino meets like, Snoop Dogg. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm like, I got it all going on. I'm like, at this point, I'm like 6'3", 220. I'm loaded up with muscles. I'm like 5'7", and maybe $120. I mean, but in this alcoholic thing, I'm the guy on the corner. This is my corner. It's the Mecca of the world, this corner. And I prayed the night never ended. I finished that quart of beer and I'm drunk, and I tasted drunk for the first time. We all know what that's like. It's euphoric. It's warm. It's fuzzy. You're numb. Nothing's getting in without my permission. No one's going to hurt me without my permission. I felt in control. I felt powerful. And I remember walking back to my house later that night, and I realized I never want to go to school sober again. I never want to be sober again. I want to keep this feeling forever, for eternity. I like the effect being produced by this. I knew nothing about alcoholism, that the cravings intensified, never satisfied when I drink. Who knows about mental obsession, spiritual malady at 14 years old? All I know is I drink a quart of Colt 45 beer. I'm obliterated and I love it. I can feel myself wobbling down the block. I'm loving this. I'm in this warm cocoon. It's really absolutely wonderful. See, even in sobriety, I don't realize how much bondage I'm in until I taste a little bit of freedom. Some of us have been in bad relationships. We know what that sounds like and what it feels like. And then you get out and you look back and say, what was I doing? What was I thinking in this relationship? I tasted freedom. While I'm in the middle of it, I keep hoping the next day it's going to get better and it only gets worse. And in this moment, I'm thinking about it, I never want to be sober again. I tasted freedom at 14 years old for the first time. That's bizarre. It's almost pathetic. A 14-year-old kid should have the world in the palm of his hand, and yet I'm under it through circumstances and my perceptions and conceptions about life. My mind owned me already. Lots of time cats come in here and they say, I got a God problem. You don't have a God problem. You just don't want to believe in God. What are you talking about? Because you worshiped your mind forever. Whatever the mind said, you did. No questions. And it was backed up by you worshipped a bottle of whiskey. Whatever it said to do, you did. No God problem. And I think back as we live life forward and understand it back, because my mind owned me. It was Lord, it was God, it was Zara of the heavens, it was everything. My mind told me something, I know it's going to be true. And that's the hook, because when I have a thought, I believe it to be true, because it's my thought, and that gives it the power. If you presented me with the same thoughts I have, I'd say, no, Lord, that's nonsense, that's ridiculous, you're delusional. But when they're mine, they're real. And now they own me. And I start to follow through on whatever thought happens to me. And they get worse and worse and worse. They never get better. And so I remember I woke up the next morning and I'm not hungover. The cops aren't looking for me. I'm not in handcuffs. No fights, no nothing, no blackened eyes, nothing. I just remember what a wonderful night I had before, and I can't wait to duplicate that again because it's going to be exactly the same. And here comes the hook, the setup. And the following Saturday rolled around, and I drank. I was going for it. I want to capture that elusive feeling. Well, I got drunk, but it was different, and I chased that to jail and institutions and knocking on death's door in 1988. I never saw that coming. The setup in the ambush, that's what alcoholism does. Now, here's the thing, how sneaky and treacherous alcoholism is. It doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. I thought it did. It sits up here in the head. I've been programmed to listen to my mind. Whatever my mind's, I'll figure it out. I know what I need to do. I got to be a man and do all this stuff. It's a setup for failure. Because what this mind will do, if it's not drinking, it will go underground and resurface in other areas. And they're called sex sprees and food sprees and gambling sprees and anger sprees and fear sprees and dating sprees. And just keep going. Because I can't be present to them. I'm not okay right now on my own. I don't do good sober. I'm not okay sober. It hurts. Being sober hurts without spiritual muscles. Without soul food, sobriety hurts. I'm a raw nerve. Everything's a drama. Everything's elevated. I'm paranoid about what people are saying about me and thinking about me. Then they present me the solution in the big book. And I balk because I'm so afraid of what I might become. I hold on to what I know. Pain and suffering, I know that. I mean, in the dictionary, there's probably the word hypocrite, and there's a picture of AA members in there. Because I say I want to do this, but I do just the opposite. I claim this, but I don't live it. I'm an example of it. And my drinking assumed more serious proportions, as Bill says in his story, and consequences. There's something in music called a crescendo, where the music gets bigger and louder. And that's what my alcoholism was doing, was getting bigger and louder. And it was starting to hurt people and infect people in a really bad way. My big book says that years of living with an alcoholic will make any child, a wife, and a neurotic. The families become ill, the whole family. I look back on it, my family was suffering first from my mom's alcoholism, now I pick up. I get in the saddle and I start to ride and I bring them all with me. And like a good alcoholic, I don't want to work, but I like money. And so I start to take things that don't belong to me. Not to buy jewelry or to buy new sneakers or to buy a new shirt or take a girl out on a date or put money towards a car. It was for drinking. I'm in my early teens and all I can do is think about drinking. I want to get to that place where I feel nice and warm and the world don't hurt because life hurts. We live in a world of impermanence. It's unfair. It's problematic. It hurts. I need some muscles to navigate through that. I had none. Alcohol gave me that. It was a glass ceiling. It was going to come down. Not good. It was going to go through it. It wasn't going to hold. And I started to steal from my family, and I got caught. I got caught stealing from my dad, which was a huge mistake. I mean, even when he's in a good mood, he never smiled. I mean, he was a tough kind of character to be around. And I started stealing from my dad. I was forging his checks out of his checkbook. And I go down to the local bodega, the local stores, and they knew who he was. And I would say, Dad, Vic's my dad, and he gave me this check. He didn't have any cash on it. That was a lie. But they did it because they don't want him coming in there, and they cash the check, and I walk out with beer. Cash the check and go down the block to the liquor store. Have someone buy liquor for me. And I'm doing this regularly. I'm taking checks out of my dad's checkbook and forging his name because I always joke around about this. I'm about as sharp as a bowling ball back then. I don't know anything about checking statements. I thought when you cash a check, it just vanished into space. No one knows about it. I knew nothing. That stuff comes in the mail. Back then, they sent the check home with the big rubber stamp in it. My dad had his checking statement out, and he found out I was stealing from him. He had told me when I got sober, he said it wasn't the money. He said, you broke my heart because my own son, my firstborn, was stealing from me rather than asking me for help. I would have gave you anything. What I do as an alcoholic. And I remember calling home on a payphone one time. Newcomers, there were things in the streets called payphones before cell phones. And so I call on this payphone, collect home. My brother picked up the phone. He says, the old man's looking for you. What did you do now? And I know exactly what I did. I was actually appalled that my dad would be appalled. I mean, it's a few $100s. My dad's walking around lots of cash all the time. What's the problem? It's a few $100s. What is he complaining about? My mind would not let me grip. I stole. It was dishonest. I betrayed someone. It wouldn't give me that. I became callous without even realizing it. I became numb to your feelings. I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, and that's what drives me. I'll worry about it tomorrow. I'll pay any price tonight tomorrow to see comfort tonight. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll make it up to him tomorrow. And I live this way, and I get caught stealing, and my dad finds me in Lower Manhattan. This is an interesting story. I met some young lady and hung out, and so I'm in love or stalking as an alcoholic, same thing. And yeah. And I'm sitting in front of the Southbridge Towers, across the street from the Brooklyn Bridge in Manhattan. And I thought I was like this player, a real man's man. And when we used to drive back then, the seat gets rolled all the way back. A real man doesn't drive up on the steering wheel. You got to roll it all the way back. And the seats are all the way back. You can't even touch the steering wheel or the pedals, but it looks good. And I got my shirt open down to my navel. The windows, I'm about 140 pounds. And the windows are down and the music's all the way up. And I got the Walmart, the fake jewelry going on. And she's sitting there and I'm sitting here. And I got it going on right now. She really thinks I'm something. I am something, aren't I? And then the old man found me and he jumped out of his car, walks across the street, screams my name. And as a player and a real man, this is how I handled it. Honey, that's my dad. You talk to him. I'm running away. This is what I did. And my dad caught me. I blamed her, the guys in the neighborhood, my mom's suicide. And off I went to my first treatment center. And it was interesting walking in there because there were alcoholics and addicts who had been through treatment centers before, who had been in jail. And I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. These people are crazy. I'm not an alcoholic. My first few treatment centers, I was way beyond conceding to my innermost self. I'm not alcoholic. I got caught. I had a tough upbringing. Anything I can lock into to justify what I was doing. I made my second, third, fourth, and fifth treatment center. Now I'm addicted to non-conference approved dry goods. And I got marks all over my body now. I can't stop drinking. I'm eating pills on top of that. And I can't, no matter how much I put in me, it's not enough. I'm a glutton. I don't care about the consequences anymore. I don't care about walking into an abandoned building, into bad neighbors. I don't care. I am on a mission to get this. And no matter how much I drank, what began to happen, I'm not getting that nice drunk anymore. I'm drinking just to basically survive at this point. I'm in my early 20s. I'm in serious, serious trouble. I began to get, like we used to say, tore up from the floor up, and I'm the problem. And I had venom coming out of me. I'm blaming Mom, I'm blaming Dad, I'm blaming the neighbor, I'm blaming everyone. I despise people who seem to have nice lives. I see people going to church on Sunday morning and hate them for it because they look so happy. Because I knew that was never going to happen to me. And I walked around with anger, this deep inner rage. I wasn't the stick-up guy. I wasn't the barroom fighter guy. I wasn't violent like that. But the rage inside of me was killing me. And what I used to do is I used to, get into this rage, and I was notorious putting my fists, punching walls and punching cars and things like that. I've gashed my hand open numerous times by doing this. I don't know what to do with all of this if I'm not drinking. I remember going into my 5th treatment center, and I always like to share about this. For me, I had to come, if you will, figuratively speaking, face to face with my demons. This thing called alcoholism. Not enough to make me stop, but I had to get a real good grip on what I'm suffering from. I mean, I would hear H and I come in and talk about what it was like, what happened, what's like now, and the counselors in treatment would try to give me the graph on, how alcohol is metabolized, but it means nothing to me. I don't understand any of this. I needed a self-diagnosis. I had to come to terms with me as to what I suffer from and what am I going to do about it. Even when I conceded to my innermost self, I'm an alcoholic, still not enough to make me stop. A powerful desire to stop drinking is not enough to keep me stop drinking. I needed power and I was lacking it. And I would look out there for power or something to give me some sort of okayness with me, and I never looked inside, which my book says it is. And I go into this 5th treatment center, and I'm in serious trouble. I got hepatitis C. I weigh about $130, and I'm urinating blood, and I'm dying. And they say, you can't go home after like 30 days, the 28, 30-day model, and you can't do this. And when you're in treatment, they say you need to stay long. It's like they're giving you 20 years in a state pen or something. This treatment center had a tennis court outside and a fitness center. It wasn't that bad. I used to tell the girlfriends, honey, I'm coming home. I did my time, treatment center. And all they needed was a tanning booth. It'd be perfect. So 9 weeks they held on to me in the treatment center number 5. 9, that was unheard of in a day. And after 9 weeks of being in an inpatient lockdown treatment center where nothing gets in unless they okay it, you're not doing well when your side of the door doesn't have a doorknob. That's not a good sign. And so I'm bathing regularly, I'm shaving, I'm going to the fitness center, they're feeding me up, I'm going to groups, I'm identifying all my feelings, I know all my feelings. Oh boy, I know my feeling. Talk about, what are you feeling today? Rage. Okay, let's talk about that. Depression, I got all these things, I got all the charts and graphs, and I know all this information, and I look relatively human after 9 weeks of being in treatment. That you kind of get that color back in your face, your eyes clear up, and they discharged me because they had to on a Saturday morning. And I did the usual. I know what I need to do until I crossed the threshold. And I was in Amityville, Long Island, where this place was, and I hit the fresh air, and I'm slammed with reality and all those voices. It was a Saturday morning, and people are going about their business, doing chores on Saturday. The world didn't stop because Pete Marinelli got out of treatment. No one cared. I don't know where to go. I have no money. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a job. I don't have a house to live in. I really don't know what to do, and it's on me. And the voices are getting louder, and the tension's getting tighter, and the anxiety's escalating. And my mind says, you know what we need to do? We need a drink right now, figure out what we're going to do in our life, then we go to AA. They told me to go to this place called AA. I need a drink. I need a drink, a bump, a pill. I need something just to settle us down and figure life out right now. I called my dad at Home Collect, and he reluctantly put me in a cab. He said, just take the cab home. I'll pay it when you get here, and settle here for a couple of days, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with your life. Now, think about how unfair I am. My dad now has the weight on his shoulder, and want my brothers to figure out what to do with me. Because I'm powerless. I don't know what to do. I'm clueless. And I get all the way out to my dad's house, and I walk into the house, and my 2 younger brothers, who at one point idolized me when we were growing up. I was the musician, the kid who was going to make it out of the neighborhood via music. And I walked in, and they were standing in the kitchen. You know that look we get when we return to the scene of the crime by our loved ones? That look. And my brother said, what is he doing here? And my dad explained to me, he's going to ruin everything. It's only a matter of time. He's going to ruin everything, which meant they were doing okay without me there. They're not okay with me there. Saturday and Sunday, I'm crawling out of my skin. I can't do sober. I'm dry. My body's as sober as it's ever going to be. Once we get sober, we can't get more sober physically. And I had 9 weeks in treatment. I know post-acute withdrawal. My body's sober, but the mind's another story. Where my alcoholism is, it sits right in here. 2 days, I got white-knuckle sobriety. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't pay attention. I can't even carry on a conversation with someone. I got the voices of screaming, I got to get out of here. This was a bad idea coming here. Monday morning, I woke up. It was really early, maybe 5 a.m. I took a car that didn't belong to me, and I headed down to South Brooklyn. And I got out of the car, and I'm pacing up and down on the sidewalk, waiting for the liquor store to open. Here was my game plan. Buy one little pint of whiskey, drink it, chill, and drive home. It's going to be great. That's it. I just need something to take this edge off because the spring has gotten way too tight. Set up in an ambush. And I'm pacing up and down on the sidewalk because nothing is open. It's 5 a.m., no liquor store. Nothing's open in this part. Nothing was open. And it's still dark out. And I start to feel like I'm going through physical withdrawal when I wasn't. The obsession was so powerful and so loud, I begin to feel like I'm going through physical withdrawal. My belly's upside down. My forehead is sweating. My hands are clammy. The anxiety, my heart's busting out of my chest. I need a drink. I didn't need a drink, but it felt that way. And when I got the pint of whiskey, I drank it as quick as I could. Now, I'm alcoholic. I never made it to the car, and you know why. I needed a second pint of whiskey. It's unbelievable. We were talked into taking the first one, and the second one's demanded. It screams louder than the first one. And I finished the second pint of whiskey. Now I'm feeling okay. So I got to get more. And when I get drunk, I like to get drunker. And I like to eat pills when I'm drunk. I want to be comfortably numb. I don't want to feel life. And I went on one of the worst drunks ever. I didn't see that coming. If it wasn't for my dad's money and connection, I probably would have been put away. I've been arrested a bunch of times. I've never been put away. You appear in front of a judge enough times, they say, I think we're going to put you away for a little while. But I got arrested a lot. It's not a good thing when you're walking down the avenue and the guy's on the beat, the cop's on the beat, how's it going, Pete? It's a matter of time we're going to get you. On a first-name basis with the police now. This is not good. Not good. I wind up my 6th treatment center, and it got real here. I walked out after 36 hours because now I just want to die. I'm convinced, or my mind convinced me, I'm never ever going to get sober. I don't want to be sober. My whole life's been a mistake. I'm causing so much pain to my family. I know it now. I'm a joke. I'm a bum. I'm never getting out from under. I just want to go away. And I landed in some flea bag motel in Staten Island, New York. The type of motel above a nightclub that's under new management every 2 months, one of those swanky joints. And I ate a bunch of pills, maybe a half, I don't know how many were in there, a bunch of pills. And I washed them down with whiskey. And I got into bed and I was just waiting to go away. And that stuff hit. You could feel it. And I'm nodding. And this little clarity thought crossed my mind. This is alcoholism. They had told me about this. I didn't articulate it this way to myself, but this was the gist of it. When I was growing up, my mom committed suicide. The belief system the men in the family told me was men don't commit suicide, women do. Women are weaker, men are stronger. The Marinelli men we would never do. His mom was a woman, she was weak, and that's why she did it. And that was what we were told. So somewhere in the back of this deluded mind, I'm thinking suicide's a gender issue. Men don't do that. As I'm drifting away, hoping never to return, I realized this is not a gender issue. This is what they told me in treatment. This is alcoholism. I welcomed the idea of going to sleep and never waking up because life it was a mistake. It was just too much pain involved. I wound up, it was an episode. I wound up in the hospital, the whole nine. Bring my family into it again. And now I'm back on the streets, but this time I'm homeless. No one wants to touch me. I don't know how to do the streets. I don't know how to do homeless. I'm not a tough guy. I don't know where to lay my head. I'm getting hungry. I need a drink. I don't know what to do. I have no money. And I start to panhandle. I remember the first time I panhandled, it was like I was committing the worst crime. I'm going to be humiliated. The 100th time I panhandle, it's what you do. It's just what you do. No shame anymore. I'm walking around with construction boots and the right boot's missing the front. My pants are bloodstained and soiled. I got this turtleneck on and this brown jacket. I'm cold and sweating at the same time, going through withdrawal. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not shaven. I haven't bathed in a while. I reek. I'm filthy. I'm living in the back of an abandoned building in a hallway at this point. I don't really care anymore. And I started to really, really despise God for keeping me hanging around in this kind of condition. Why don't you just strike me dead and do everyone a favor? This is what I'm walking around with. Until June 23rd, 1988. When I got up off the floor to go out into the street, to go panhandling because I needed a drink, it was like I need a drink. I got to get a couple in me because I'm all over the place. And I fell, I collapsed, and I hit the floor, and I couldn't get up. I remember this. I was so weak and so tired, and God had basically crushed the ego for a moment for his light to get in. And it was a moment where desperation began to scream louder than the ego for the first time in God knows how long. It's called the gift of desperation. It didn't feel like a gift, didn't sound like a gift, didn't smell like a gift. It didn't look very much like a gift from God, but it was very much from God. Got my attention. It brought me to a place where no options, no reservations. I'm in serious trouble, and I knew it. In here for the first time rather than up here. The mind is fickle. Get sober today, not so tomorrow. Something happens when we start to operate out of the soul. It's always right. It's where the spirit, if you will, lives. And something here says, I need help. And I remember being really, really afraid at this point that if I got a drink in me, I'm going to die. And if I don't get a drink in me, I'm going to die. I'm at the jumping off place. What do I do? It was the first time I recall, I don't want to die. And I remember begging God. I looked up at the ceiling, says, please take me from this. I don't want to die. I wasn't thinking about going to detox and treatment and coming to AA, do the steps, and turn into Moses. I didn't know what I was going to do. I think back on it now, it was wonderful that God didn't give me, like God kept me away from me. I wasn't making another game plan. I know what I need to do to awaken. I don't know. I just don't want to die. And I got out on the street. I'm trying to make a collect call home. It's the only place I know what to do. Place to call, and my dad was on his way to find me because he was awakened out of his sleep at around 2 or 2:30 in the morning. He was in Atlantic City, New Jersey with his wife. And he was awakened out of his sleep, and he was called to come look for me. His wife said, where are you going? He said, I don't know, I got to find my son Peter. We haven't spoken in God knows how long. He said, where are you going to find him? I said, I don't know, but I got to go. And he made, you guys know, that's Atlantic City to the Lower East Side Manhattan. It's a nice drive, it's a long way. And he's into the worst neighborhoods, Lower East Side, Alphabet City, trying to find yours truly. And he finds me later that day standing on a street corner, and I'm busted up. I'm a mess. I don't know what that feels. I can't even fathom what that's like, seeing your son or daughter standing on the corner in this condition. And this time when he got out of the car, he didn't scream my name, he just called my name. And the first thing I tell him is, I'm okay, I'm fine. No, okay, Dad, what's happening? You got any money? I'm okay, I'm fine. He kept walking towards me. And when he got to me, I never forget this. I hope I never do. I kind of went limp. I collapsed. And he put his arms on the mine. He was holding me up. And it began to change. Both of our roots were grasping new soil. We were both at the bitter end here. We had a non-existent relationship other than anger. And God says, enough of this. We got to fix this. And use that kind of adversity and turmoil to bring people together and revolutionize my life. And my dad, as he was holding me up, kept saying, I'm not going to lose my son to this. I'm not going to lose my son to this. Kept repeating that like a mantra. And I got placed in treatment number 7. And 10 days at that same place, 12 days at the same place in Amityville, Long Island, they sent me out to Minnesota. My life really changed. I was around people who loved Alcoholics Anonymous, loved sobriety. They invited me into their home, and I saw them operating away from the rooms of AA. And they had marital stuff, they had relationship stuff, they had job stuff, they had money stuff, just like general public, but they were walking through it with grace and dignity. They were impeccable. How do I get on your team? What do I need to do? I was so desperate and I was so afraid. And about a year in Minnesota, I was brought home to my home group, the Free Spirit Group. And I found my first appointed teacher. I got to tell you, I confess, it frustrates me. I get folks who text me or send me a message and say, I'm looking for a sponsor. Can you recommend anyone? I tell them, yeah, go to God. You're still looking for an easier, softer way. You're telling me you can't go to God and say, God, I need a sponsor. Show me someone you want me to recommend. And it really frustrates me when people do that. So don't do that if you call me, because I'm going to tell you to go to God. Go to the gym and work out, for God's sake. You want me to do the steps for you too? I mean, 50th step, okay, we'll make a deal. It drives me nuts. And so what I did out of desperation is, God, I don't know to tell me to do this sponsor. I don't know who to ask. Please help me. First teacher shows up. I've gone, as recent as my last sponsor, Bob Azam, my current sponsor. God, I don't know what to do. Please show me a teacher. And his name kept showing up. I called my friend Jimmy. Give him a call. He said, I'd love to sponsor you. Okay, done. I didn't call him, who can you recommend for a sponsor? Think about it. I got to wrap up here. I will tell you, I've been in the treatment center business for many years. I was brought into it. I'm only 18. I look this way because of the business. It's rewarding and frustrating. It's heartbreaking. It's just messy. It's a messy business. But that's where God has me and my wife for the longest time. Lots of times people think when you're in that business or own that business, you drive around in a Ferrari and have all sorts of Rolex watches. We're pretty much blue-collar folks, make a blue-collar salary. But I work for God, and it's frustrating sometimes. And sometimes the task God put before my wife and I was like, I don't have it in me to do it, and you get it done. Because God's going to bring me to it and bring me through it. That's been my experience. I lean all the way in. I don't lean on the wisdom of man anymore as much as I used to, more on the power of God, because at the end of the day, it's all I got. I buried my dad a few months ago. It was gut-wrenching at times. It was surreal at times. I still drive in a car thinking I got to give my dad a call and realize no, you're not making a call. I travel a lot, and I get home Sunday, and every Monday since I've been on the road, it's a long time I've been on the road going to these conferences, and every Monday at noon, for years, my phone would ring like clockwork. It would be my old man, how was your trip? Did Marion go with you? How was your flight? It was his way of checking up on me. And my first conference after I put my dad to rest, it was Monday at noon, and I was instinctively waiting for a phone call, and I realized, there's no call coming in. It was difficult, like most of us who go through that. But God allows me to walk head up and shoulders square. My brothers, thank the good Lord, are closer to me, and I'm close to them. We're all really close. We walk shoulder to shoulder with all our stuff. And I owe everything to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll close with this. Everything I have is because of God and AA, including the clothes on my back tonight, my wife. When I do Zoom, my laptop. The car I drive, the career I have, I showed up here with zero, and everything I've gotten from God, so I don't boast about it, give thanks to Him for it. And the only thing God wants from me is my soul. Yeah, and I give Him my soul, and He's given me a life. I've given Him my life, and He's given me purpose. I've given Him my sinfulness, and He continues to give me forgiveness, yeah? I've given Him my drunkenness, and He's given me sobriety. And I've given Him my sobriety, and over and over and over again, He gives me the sacred rooms and the men and women of a place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And for this, I'm forever grateful. There's 3 places I'm most comfortable. Here, I'm better with you, with my wife, and in church. Those are the three places that God allows me to thrive. I'm most comfortable. I'm most safe when I'm with you. I'm safe with my wife, and I'm safe in church. I'm way overpaid. And for this, I'm forever grateful. That's all I got, guys. Peace.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much for that powerful, epic talk. And thank you for everybody who contributed and made this such an awesome day. It truly was. I felt God's presence today in the room, so thank you so much for that. It's customary us to form a line and thank our speaker. They come at their own time and expense, so we'll form a line here in the front and thank them on a singular level. Thank you for Annette in the kitchen, did all that hard work today. Thank you for the opportunity for me to be of service. If you care to join us, we'll close with the Lord's Prayer. All right. Brief moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen.
We got to pull those tablecloths off.